Yeah. Christians, some of them are okay. It just, most of them talk about God as though he is an unconditional loving dude. Like, he loves you without condition. Well, then why do we have to get on our hands and knees and beg him to cure the coronavirus? Like, there's no conditions to loving God except you have to believe he exists. And he's working in your favor, which is a condition. What you're telling me is that we are more important to God than God is to us. And that doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. Like, if I have to believe in something without evidence, you're asking me to approach life non-scientifically, which has never produced results ever. The whole idea of magic replacing science has not happened once in human history. It's not like, they ran out of ways to explain something like maybe photosynthesis, and then they just said, well, it must be magic. And that was the explanation. No, once they figured out what photosynthesis was, they followed the evidence wherever it led, and they learned more about science. They didn't just stop and say, well, I'm gonna cop out and say it's fairy dust or fairy magic that causes plants to absorb sunlight and to make it into food. Never once in history has something like that happened where it's from science to magic. If it does, we're gonna experience another dark ages, which kind of is what the Trump administration seems like now anyway. I mean, who the fuck hires and then fires the CDC now has a director because of this shit, but for years there wasn't. He won't take any advice from the World Health Organization. It's like we're in the middle of medieval America. Like, if you really want to fight the right wing, become less religious. Don't do anything that they want you to do. Any kind of extremism is bad. So, what God are you fucking talking about? Like, the more people believed in God, the more there were concepts like theocracy and theocratic fascism and theocratic states like the Vatican in Europe during the Middle Ages, and Tibet, which was a Buddhist theocratic state until communist China took over in 1949 and turned it into a state monopoly masquerading as communism, which was still an absolute state. Just instead of a religious, it was secular. So that all, I mean, the fact that there's still homelessness when there's all these billionaires around that aren't lifting a finger to help anybody during a pandemic shows that God created faulty creatures. I mean, the whole Bible, there's literally 100 verses against greed. 80% of the country is Muslim, Jewish, or Christian. But the billionaires aren't being forced to give up billions of dollars, and they're not willfully giving up billions of dollars to fight a global pandemic that's going on right now in April of 2020, where a third of the planet is shut down. So Christians, Muslims, and Jews have an instruction manual for their behavior, and yet they're greedy a lot of times, especially among the bourgeoisie and the people that can afford cars, the petite bourgeoisie, and wealthier, the people that can afford to not ride the bus. Even among the proles, I mean, you see oh, we love Bernie Sanders, but I'm gonna go have 5 or 6 girlfriends during a pandemic where touching each other could get you killed. The girls are stupid, the boys are stupid. and everybody else in between, men and women, are stupid. It's like social distancing when convenient for them. So, I mean, that's all proof of atheism being correct. The classism, despite this instruction manual that says in one verse that you can't worship God and money. And yet they do. Do you see hot college chicks lining up at the library? No, you see them out jogging in the park right now. But they're age phobic, right? Or they're classist or religionist. Oh, I'm a Christian. I don't care if your behavior is good. I'm only going to date either only Christians, even if your behavior is good, or B, only people who believe in God, even if your behavior is better than the misogynistic assholes that we usually date. So that's all proof of atheism being correct. You're not seeing hot college chicks lining up at the library, or even calling the library to check on us. Even though they're pro-democratic socialism, they don't give a fuck. They don't want to date us because they're classist. They don't want to date us because they're religionist bigots. And they don't want to date us because they're age-phobic or ageist. Despite the fact that among the poor, there's a lot of age gap relationships in that 20-year age gap thing in Spokane. So, like, I can pitch it out there, but these chicks will just go to any other dude but me. No matter what I look like, no matter how calm and cool and collected and deep I am, I'm never good enough to them. And people will say, well, people don't like hot-headed dudes. One, I'm not all that hot-headed. I'm not a violent guy. I haven't been in a fight since I was 13, because, like, that stuff is childish to me. Like, the whole name-calling and the he said, she said crap, and the whole, like, violent fisticuff thing is like 8th grade mentality. So I just kind of keep to myself most of the time. Most of the rappers, outlaw country, and the rock musicians that they listen to are hot-headed. I'm certainly not boring. But what I'm seeing from women is, despite the fact that they're democratic socialists, if a guy has a credit card, he's viable. Which means that Bernie Sanders didn't get through your fucking thick heads. You're just classist, and that makes you bigoted. You're bigoted against the poor. So when atheists mimic Christian behavior, which is hypocritical to what the religious text says to be and do, and Jews and Muslims, it goes to show me that you're really more for Trump than you were for Bernie Sanders, because you're a classist. And if it makes you mad that I point out stuff like this, you're the problem. Who wouldn't be angry about this? Can I go on Tinder? No, it's all, you're too old. But we're going to drink our wine that's better than water due to aging makes a better fermented beverage. Or the fact that water itself is billions of years old and oxygen is billions of years old. But you're there age phobic, which makes no sense to me. I've dated women 20 years older than me, and I've dated women my own age. I've never been an ageist. I've never been a racist. You're just there blaming me, which is what narcissists do. They're like, no, you're actually the narcissist. Oh, shut up.